Oops. I am Nick Westergaard, and I'm excited to talk a bit about how work works, which is a funny title that deserves a little bit of backup. But first I need to tell you a little bit about my own background, kind of who I am, what I do. I'm the founder and chief brand strategist of Brand Driven Digital. We're a social digital firm in Iowa. Go Hawks. I consult, coach, speak, write. I'm an educator at the University of Iowa. Again, not getting any Go Hawks love. There you go. But the other thing that I think is more important to know about the context of what it is that I do is that I am clearly insane. And not necessarily because of what I do, because that's probably a little bit similar to what a lot of you do, but rather how I do that is a little crazy making. And that is, I work from home leading a virtual team with 5 kids ranging in age from 5 months to 13 years old. So I work directly below this very fun scene in a panic room or Batcave-like bunker. I had my 13-year-old son, who wanted a visual credit there, take this photo. And I kind of explained, I was talking to him a bit about why I needed him to take a picture of me working. And he said, "You should be sure to tell them that when you yell at us from down here, you sound like Satan." So I am keeping my word and sharing that with you. But that's where I work. My wife, also another part of the crazy making part of it, this is her office. She is a freelance writer, marketer, and yoga instructor. That's a somewhat uncommon triple threat. Her coffee's nearby, as well as the newborn. But before you run and grab your coffee thinking, oh, it's the crazy 5-kid guy, I'm not that nuts, I would caution you that regardless of your circumstances, whether you're 5 kids, 2 kids, 0 kids, home office, coffee shop, C-suite, cubicle, we're all still trying to do the same thing. We're all trying to get work done, or all the Dunkin' Donuts around, and we just got our first one in Iowa. That's how off of things Iowa is. Go Iowa, go Dunkin' Donuts. We're all trying to make the donuts. And I thought I'd share during my time today a little bit about what I've learned about getting work done, and more importantly, kind of how I've learned that. But to do that, we have to jump into the Wayback Machine a little over a year ago, to a time when I was first bitten by the podcasting bug. And there's all sorts of great data on the podcasting renaissance, never really went anywhere, numbers just climbing, many new podcasters entering the space, and I thought, wow, it would be fun to give this a shot and create some new content. But because of all of the previous evidence that I just set up, it seemed like that could be an additional crazy-making task to add, unless I had a partner, which is where I was happy to run into DJ Waldo, co-author of The Rebel's Guide to Email Marketing, CEO of Waldo Social, and we thought, great, we will do a social media digital marketing podcast. Sort of like Social Pros with Jay Baer, or Social Media Marketing with Mike Stelzner, or Marketing Over Coffee, Chris Penn and John Wall's show, Mitch Joel's 6 Pixels of Separation, and man, there are a lot of really great marketing podcasts. So as we kind of took a step back and assessed and thought about how we might come at this from a different direction, instead of being just an also-ran, or as I've said for any Dukes of Hazzard fans, the Coy and Vance of the social media marketing podcasts. A couple of people got that one. But as we were reassessing, we thought, we both home office, we both have kids. He has 2, I have 5, so he's a little less than half as crazy as I am. But we thought it would be fun to talk a bit about how it is that we do what we do. And in doing this, we kind of realized that that might be a conversation that no one else is having. So an opportunity to talk to all of these great industry thought leaders that we wanted a reason to talk to, but instead of asking them about marketing and social media and email, we would instead start with one scripted question, and that's, how do you do what you do? And kind of the other caveat around all of this, set up by the fact, as noted, that I am clearly insane. Neither DJ nor myself are productivity or workplace experts, but rather, like you, we're all people trying to get stuff done. So that's kind of where we jumped off, and that was the birthplace of the Work Talk Show, which is our weekly podcast that we host. And we've had the opportunity to talk to a lot of great people, a lot of people that are giving bold talks, that are on the various stages here. But instead of what they talk about here, we talk about all the different ways that people get stuff done, whether it's virtual teams, home officing, productivity, time management, and so forth. And over that time, I've been fortunate enough to kind of take a look back at this year's worth of podcasts that we've done, about 50 conversations with people, and developed, you kind of start to see various trends and tips and even some traps from the world of work. So that's what I wanted to talk a bit about today. And the first one kind of directly takes on, it's hard. It's not hard to find an article out there on work-life balance. And one of the most common things that a lot of our guests have had to say, really kind of flies in the face of this idea of this kind of perfect utopian equilibrium that we're supposed to hit of work-life balance. In fact, one of our guests, Danielle Smith, who wrote Social Media Engagement for Dummies and is a blogger at Extraordinary Mommies, noted, balance is bunk. She said, whenever I'm knocking it out of the park professionally, I'm usually not at my best as a parent, and that's okay. It's not this on-off switch, that it's more like a dimmer or a restat that you can kind of take your focus up and down, versus, this concept of balance. Mitch Joel, who was just up here, talks about an idea of blend, that we're not, personal Nick and professional Nick. We are, a lot of us, leading blended lives when it comes to our personal and professional priorities now. And yet absolutes, like work-life balance, are prevalent. They're everywhere because absolutes are easy. Achieve work-life balance, unplug, how you should or shouldn't take vacation. And the dangerous part about all of this is that they spread. And beyond just being simple misinformation, it's really part of something bigger, and that it leads to, there's so much judging that goes on online now. I'd say if there's a downside to as connected as we are, it almost gives license to allow people to measure you against different, these prevalent absolutes that are out there. As opposed to one of the favorite lines from one of our guests, Krista Perry, who used to lead marketing at Park City Mountain Resorts in Utah, noted, "You're the only one who can define your success." And we spend so much time seeing all of these messages about how to unplug, how not to unplug, how often you should have your phone out, and really, it's all back to what kind of life that you want to lead. It makes me think a bit of that early scene in Mr. Mom, which with school starting up is also very top of mind, when he's trying to drop the kids off. And he keeps getting confronted with people saying to him, "You're doing it wrong." And I think that's kind of the downside of some of this, is that we live in a bit of a "you're doing it wrong" culture. But in getting after your own take on success, time is obviously a very critical part of that. And there's, of course, the old saying that time is money. But money is also time. Now, to untie that word knot, I kind of wrap this up in a little bit. I want to tell a story from one of our guests, Alan Weiss, who, despite being the author of a book called $1 Million Consulting, has a pretty unique definition of wealth. He says that, rather than monetary measurement, your real wealth is measured by your discretionary time, by how much time you have to enjoy what you've made. We've probably all worked out scenarios in our mind where we could work around the clock and make a ton of money, but we wouldn't maybe have time to enjoy that. And one really common theme, and especially something to observe in aggregate after doing the podcast, and talking to so many successful marketers and thought leaders is that all of them have a really unique definition of how they manage their time, or by the Weiss definition, how they manage their wealth. And just kind of to scan a few of those, Chris Penn, who will be up here next, talks about how he basically schedules each task in his day, talking to these individuals, following up on these types of emails, and so forth. John Jantz, who will be on a couple different stages here, talks about how he takes focus days and unplugs from other distractions to work on specific high-yield projects. Ann Handley with Marketing Profs, who will be here on Thursday, I believe. Their virtual team, when their exec team actually gets together in person, they have a no multitasking rule so that nobody's distracted and they can maximize their time together. Ginny Dietrich of Arment Dietrich and Spin Sucks, up at the crack of dawn to blog first before something else can cut in front of it in her queue. When Chris Brogan has a high priority deliverable, he often isn't able to do that from his home office and has better success going off site. Dan Pink, multiple time best-selling author, has a converted garage behind his house that is sort of his writing lair. And he goes out there each morning, he said, in his words, like a bricklayer, and doesn't allow himself to do other things, check things on the internet, until he writes his minimum quota of words each day, which is 500 words. Now, is that to say, get your notebooks out and take down all 6 of those ideas? That the secrets are right here. Some of them may work for you. None of them may work for you. I think what's more important is that it's important to have some sort of relationship and management system for your time, because your time is, of course, your wealth. Now, when Jason Keith was up here, he talked a bit about creativity. And I think as you're scheduling your time, it's also important not to overschedule yourself, because there's a lot of guilty feelings that we can end up having when we are doing something that, oh, this isn't at my desk doing, something that looks like work. And Eric Boggs, the founder of Argyle Social, kind of compares it to, it's important to have time for background cycles, like software, that things can run in the background and accomplish tasks. And your mind, it works the same way too. I think of this as my dishwashing or lawn mowing time. When you may feel like if I'm walking the dog in the middle of the day and I'm home officing, this is really, being a slacker. But you can actually get other things done kind of in some of those background cycles. I have the John Lennon picture up there because it makes me think of the quote of life's what happens when you're busy making other plans. Well, I think sometimes a little bit of work can sneak in there too. And speaking of technology, powering up and down, I think another interesting conversation that's emerged in talking with so many, this common trend out there that though all of these mobile technologies, these devices, have unlocked so many great new things, aren't they destroying our personal and professional relationships, the real human thing? And a lot of our guests have also been pretty bullish on this one too, and I would tend to agree that it's not as much about the device itself as the relationship that we choose to have, right? Are we making the the wand the villain as opposed to the wizard that's wielding it? And I think of it's all about choices. When Seth Godin was on the show, he talked about choices that he's made in managing his time and the ones related to technology too. And the fact that he kind of famously doesn't have blog comments or doesn't engage via social media, but that's the relationship he's chosen to have. Now, it does allow you to do things too. I mean, I was texting my 13-year-old son from here, and I'm able to FaceTime. So there's so many great opportunities that technology can have. I don't know that it's necessarily fair to blame the tools as opposed to the user. I think of the Spider-Man quote, and I think it's kind of up to us. With great power comes great responsibility. And I think probably one thing that in aggregate, in talking with all of these great industry thought leaders who are obviously experts in their field, all of them still struggle with everything that we do. We're all trying to get the work done. We're all trying to make the donuts. Everyone puts their pants on one leg at a time. You know, I can't tell you, it's probably gave me too much pleasure hearing Guy Kawasaki talk about how his email inbox is the bane of his existence, which I would guess, probably from a show of hands, that's most of your banes of existence too, especially when you're at an event like this. But just thinking about some of that and some of the anxiety that a lot of that causes kind of brings me to my final point, which I think is important to think about too. And this is advice from Jess Ostroff, who is the director of Calm and also possessor of one of the coolest titles out there at Don't Panic Management, which is a company of virtual assistants. And she says, at the end of the day, it's important to remember with all this anxiety, with all this negativity, all the judging that can happen in the you're doing it wrong culture, it's important to remember to be like a duck and let that roll off your back. Or said another way, as perhaps not our most famous guest on the show, but definitely the one that has the best attendance record for being at my family holidays, and that's my father, who founded our agency 33 years ago, was our guest on our Father's Day show. He said something that I think would appeal to all of you. At the end of the day, it's marketing. You know, no one died on the table today. So think about that, and I guess I would encourage you to find ways to have these work talk conversations in your own life. You know, and not just with your professional colleagues, but with your friends and family. Everyone is journeying down this path together. You know, what can you talk about? What ideas can you steal from them to help you come up with a system for measuring your own success and managing your real wealth, which is your time? And speaking of time, that's all I have today. Thank you, and have a great inbound.